Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
Been there,
And
we're in heaven. I mean, my wife and I doing exactly what we want with whom we want, doing interviews with great people like you, having a ball.
Thank you, sir.
And the beneficiary of what we're doing today is not you and not me.
Yeah.
It's people that are listening, because they're going to go, wait a second. These guys said you should study biographies because you're going to get new models in your head. You're going to be able to think thoughts you hadn't thought, but you got to have a foundation in your brain so you can go into the illumination, revelation part of asking, and you got to ask God, you got to ask others, and then ask yourself.
Yeah.
And in any one of those sequences you want. But if you've forgotten to ask God, you've cheated yourself.
Yeah.
God owns the whole show. There's no question in my mind who created this. I can't create a lump of dirt, much less a star in the sky. I sort of understand it, but not enough to do a 15 billion-year-old program, right? Pretty cool program.
Pretty crazy. So you met your wife.
Yes.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
How did you meet her?
So I'm doing a talk called Author 101 in LA, and the place is packed. And I see this. Remember, I said you can see somebody's aura if you start getting into the sort of it's called esoteric or metaphysical stuff. But remember, the top of physics is metaphysics. There's metaphysics figures out physics, not the other way around.
Right.
And so I saw her just as a sunbeam sitting in the audience, but she's sitting with some guy. So there's a guy backstage. I said, do you know that woman? He said, yeah. She's divorced a while. And I said, well, good. I'm divorced. That's perfect. Anyhow, that night we're at the VIP room, and, people paid like $500 extra to get to hang with all the greats that are there, the top agents and everything. And she'd just written her first book and was the top hypnotherapist here in Arizona at that time. And a couple other things, nutrition, all that good stuff. Anyhow, she is over pitching her book and everything, and I've got an entourage asking me a question. Well, we've met her lady from El Salvador, because people from around the world come to these seminars, and it's great fun. That's the beauty of the business we're in today. It is literally a world business for those out there that want to come into either Zoom podcasts like you, or writing books like I do, or speaking. It is now a world game. I mean, I've talked in 80 countries. Anyhow, lady wipes out a glass of red wine. And my wife wasn't at that time drinking. She had on white pants, went all over her pants, and it just destroyed a very expensive outfit. And I immediately broke out of the crowd, and I go over and I grab her hand. I say, I think I know where, this is a hotel I work at all the time and rent myself for my seminars. I said, I know where the kitchen is. I know
where the club soda is.
Exactly correct. You're so anyway, long story short, we go out, and it's now 9:30 on a Saturday night, and I say, are you hungry? I said, I'm starved, but I can't stay here because there's thousands of people that want 2 minutes, and that'll end. We won't talk.
Right.
And I find you to be enlightened and interesting, and I've been looking for you. Now, she didn't know that I had written down in the 20th anniversary issue of Chicken Soup 101 goals of what I wanted in my ideal wife. She had to be personable. She had to love me for me, not my money. Somebody else married me for a wallet, and that was a mistake, right? She had to have her own personality, do her own thing, have her own money, all kinds of cool stuff. And I didn't tell her any of that, but I said, can we take you out? And she said, I got to go call my mother. She's taking care of our kids, her kids. And her mother, she said, Mom, you're not going to believe it. I just been invited out by Mark Victor Hansen. She said, I knew it. Now, I never knew her mother at all, but her mother had sent her to this seminar. Long story short, we go to the top restaurant in Hollywood, and there's like 50 people outside. And $100 bill sometimes can get you in, but this isn't going to work. So I said, let's float this, because you and I live in questions. Watch this. So I grab her hand. I go up. Now, she is of Danish descent too. the guy looks at her and sees, I love this big word, pulchritudinous, just emanating out of every pore of her body. That's why I call her
Beaming.
the goddess.
She's
Yes.
beaming. Yeah.
Goddess of exquisiteness is what I call her. Anyhow, guy says, okay, I give up. Who is she? Because he's going through People magazine and Enquirer and Esquire and InStyle, and you can see his head's dizzy. He can see she's gorgeous. She's been a top model and all that, but can't register who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And so a question, I said, you don't recognize her? Now he's really done. He's melting down because he knows, at least from my point of view, I've said she's somebody special. He says, okay, I give up. Who is she? Now I'm goofing, but I say she's a queen of Denmark. He starts by saying she's not. He says, oh my God, she is. Who are you? Back to questions. I said, who travels with the queen? She said, oh my God, you're the king. Hold on one second. I got a table for you. And like that, we had all those people looking, going, what the hell did that guy just say?
Wow.
Always, it's what you teach and I teach is it's always ASK. Ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a question.
Yeah.
The question determines the answer. The answer I wanted was, I wanted to be with her alone at a private table, never thinking I could pull this off. But that was my imagination. And the guy, we had the chef come out with little houndstooth pants and all that, like that. It was, yes, we got to take care of the king and queen. And I thought, oh, good, this is really good, better. And by that time, you're deep into it. You can't not do it. Now, let me just talk to that. Back when China was becoming capitalistically communistic rather than Maoistically communist, we're in the wrong time. But I worked in China every quarter. They paid me 75 grand to talk. It was wonderful. Sold 374 million books in China, had the greatest promoter. But every one of the talks wanted, Crystal and I both talked to all of them, but they wanted me to tell that story, or Crystal to tell that story at the end of our talk. And then at one time, it was Crystal's birthday. She was born September 9th, September 6th. Anyhow, they want me to carry her out. Now, all the TV cameras are on us, and they give her 100 roses means love, but they gave her 200 roses, so she's carrying them, and I'm carrying her. The stairs in front of 7,000 people to the exit. I thought, man, if I trip on the stairs, this is going to be like a bad thing. The divorce will happen tomorrow. I'll break her leg and mine. And
This will not be good.
Yeah, but they insisted, and thank God I had balance enough to pull it off. I'd never done stairs carrying her. She's not only 20 pounds, but it was not the weight. It was just the distance that I thought, I can stand here with it, but I don't know if I can really be mobile, because people are taking pictures and they're all hitting you. And congratulations, we're so glad. And they had the longest silk thing. And a lot of them back then, today, you can't do this, because remember, communism means atheism, which is I find abysmal, because God made it all. Yeah. Anyhow, they'd saying God loves you and sign it. And it was so amazing. It was just, I hope, again, I might have over answered your question, Mike.
So you walked down all those stairs holding her and all those roses?
2 flights plus then all the way to the exit. Because
how could you see where you were stepping?
That's the problem. You and I have been on a lot of stages, and they're supposed to have white. Yeah. In China, they don't mandate that.
So you're just kind of guessing as you go.
Yeah, I'm going, please, dear God, don't let me. And there's no handrail, and you go, shh. This is not like the best thing I've ever done.
Good. I'm praying now, baby. I'm praying now.
I want to crash and burn. It would hurt my feelings and wreck her. I mean,
No kidding. Wow, that is incredible. I never heard that part of the story before. I love that.
No, every story has appendages, I think.
I know. I love it. I love it, though. We could be here for 3 days, you and me. So after Chicken Soup for the Soul, after you meet Jack Canfield, you guys decide to work together, all that. You decide, not too long ago, but you decide at one point back in the early 2000s, it sounds like, to write a book about called The 1 Minute Millionaire. Can you talk about that for a second? What was the mindset that went into it, and what was the number one thing you learned writing the book?
Okay. Oh, great question. First of all, I never got invited to a Hollywood party, so I said, well, I'll start having one.
Yeah.
So, birthday, and I said, we're going to have it, and we're going to invite everybody. And as a guy who travels a lot, you collect all the 9 names, have a database, and we send it out. And I'm going to have a birthday party, and I decide to hire the Shirelles to my birthday, and they brought as their birthday gift to me the Temptations.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, I got goosebumps telling you that.
How cool is that?
Yeah, so we got 500 or 600 people, and I've got Martin Luther King's kids are there. I mean, the place showed up. Bob Allen, who had sold 50 million copies and
Yeah.
nothing, and a lot of books. He is a genius, but most people
Really?
don't know he's an astrophysicist. And at this time, he owns
I
the
didn't
J.
know that.
Yeah, no, he's an
I knew he's
astrophysicist.
a smart guy because
No,
I've listened to him. I've listened to him speak, and I've read his book, right?
yeah,
But I didn't know. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was a. That's wild.
yeah. So
That's really cool.
when we did seminars together, he always started by showing the Hubble, which the
Hmm.
Hubble goes outside the universe. And I don't know how they did this, but took a picture, and the universe looks like a giant oval with nothing but energy shooting through it. It
Yeah.
really. And so we'd start people at macro and try to bring them back to micro and making millions. So Bob comes up to me at my birthday party and says, "I want you to write the foreword to my book, 1 Minute Millionaire." I said, "Great. I'd like to know how to make $1 million in a minute." And so he
Sure.
says, and I said, "You and I've been friends for whatever long time. You endorse my stuff, I've endorsed yours." So next day I'm flying up to talk in Vancouver, and in first class, the seat next to me, he comes on the plane. He always shows up at the last second. I don't know how he pulls stuff off, but he sits down. I said, "What are you doing here, Bobby?" And he said, "I'm going to ask you to write the book with me." And I said, "I'm going to write this book with you. I've never made $1 million in a minute. I've made millions, but never in a minute." So we decided to do the book. And as you know, I have 3 principles. It's got to be original.
Yeah.
And this is my corporate colors. And the butterfly is the spirit of illumination and freedom in the whole world.
Yeah.
And I said,
Little change every day. Yeah.
yep. And it starts out in the chrysalis, transforms, and becomes this magnificent, which we bred butterflies in our little place in Newport Beach. My little daughter, we did the nets and their anise and all that stuff. Yeah. So I said, it's got to be original. So we did 2 books in one,
Yeah.
right? The left-hand side, your left brain, the right-hand side. Nobody had ever done a fiction, nonfiction. We were number 1 on both lists because we sold so many so fast. But we did Purple Inside, which Random House was just having a flip. You go, "Oh, that book's going to go." Anyhow, we did a butterfly that by the time you're done reading it, the butterfly goes to the top.
Oh, that's so
Isn't that cool?
I love that.
So number 1, it's got to be original. Number 2, it's
Yeah.
got to be transformative, not to me, to you, the reader.
Yeah.
I want you to go from broke, if you're broke and you are not, but to rich, or from rich to richer, because I want you to have money freedom, to buy time freedom, to
Yeah.
buy relationship freedom, because our relationship's just starting, but it's going to get better. I can just tell you in advance if you know it. And number 4, so you can be passionately on purpose about freedom, because back earlier you asked about the kid, what makes happiness? Happiness comes out of having a meaning and a purpose that's bigger than you are, that's not self-serving, but other-serving.
Yeah.
That's how I define it.
That's literally what it is. That's literally what it is.
So the book's got to be original, transformative, but number 3, it's got to be inevitable.
Yeah.
The people that read it, like I told you about Adley, went out and made money, and she sold a lot of books, and the book keeps selling, and I keep getting paid for it, and so does Bob, and we love that. But I'm on a podcast in England with the biggest guy there. We got to get you on his podcast, Rob Moore. And Rob's had everybody on. Jordan Peterson, who just moved here to Arizona and is now becoming our good friend and all that. Anyhow, so he says, "You goal shamed me." I said, "Have I ever met you?" He said, "Yeah, you talk 7,000 people here in London, and you said you got to have at least 101 goals. And when you get one of them in purple, you write down victory. You never cross it out." And my teacher had said, "You have 5 goals," and I hit 90%, 4 out of 5.
Mhm.
And now you got 101. But because you told me to do bigger than I've ever thought I could do, I made 30 million last year. I said, "Oh, okay. I'm glad I goal shamed you."
That works. That's a magic formula, baby.
I think Think and Grow Rich has probably made more millionaires than anybody, and I love Napoleon Hill and all of his work. I'm one of the scholars in it with my old partner, Bob Proctor. But then I think 1 Minute Millionaire and the trilogy, the richest, Cash in a Flash, and Cracking the Millionaire Code. We did this one too, because I want everyone to have financial freedom.
Yeah.
You cannot be free until you're financially free, whatever that means to you.
I agree with that 1,000%.
Most people have not thought it through. You thought it through in real estate as one of your aspects. Now you're going to end up having millions, and as you keep doing it, and with the book, for the first time ever, we can have 1 billion people listen to us. I've had 1 billion people read me. I'm sure of it, having sold 500 million books. But I really want to talk still to 1 billion people. I mean, it's one of my mega goals, and you're helping do that. A lot of people will go back to this podcast. That's why it's so beautiful that it's evergreen. They'll catch on to the fact that we're still alive at this time and all that, but it's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So you make a decision to write the book Ask. Talk about the thought process. What made you decide? Because there are people that are listening to this that are literally listening and watching us that are thinking about writing a book. They're thinking about starting a company. They're thinking about doing a number of things, right? But they've never written a book before. What was the thought process that went into it, and what's the number one thing you learned writing it?
Yeah, I want to go first to them helping write a book, because the richest place in the world is a graveyard.
Yeah.
It's got the best inventions. It's got the best businesses, the best books, the best songs, all unsung, all undone.
Yeah.
So everyone's got to write a book. And our company, Mark Victor Hansen Library, which Crystal and I started 4 years ago, because we went from 19,000 independent bookstores down to 400.
Yeah.
And we said, whoa, this isn't okay.
Yeah.
Book made us. I mean, she's been an addicted reader since she was little, because she had really smart parents, and and 1 of 9 kids and all that good stuff. Anyhow, so Crystal and I are seeing the bookstores die because of COVID.
Mhm.
And we said, wait a second, we got to do something about this. So we said, well, we'll start our own publishing company, and we'll take people's impact stories and bring them to life.
Yeah. That's so cool.
I get called by the guy, John Paul DeJoria. Do you know that name?
Yeah. Paul Mitchell.
Yeah, you're going to have him on your show. So have
Love
you had
it.
him?
Love it.
Well, he and I have been friends 35 years. We both won the Horatio Alger Award in the Supreme Court, and you get a gold medal from Judge Clarence Thomas for coming from rags to riches and being excessively philanthropic. But here's a guy who he gets home, he's door knocking, selling Encyclopedia Britannica, and it wasn't a good day. And his wife's coming down the stairs, said, "Throw me the keys to the car. You'll see the note on the baby. I'm out of here. I need the car." Anyhow, he gets up there and says, "You'll never see me again. I've taken the car. I've emptied the bank accounts and credit cards. I'm done with you." And the baby's 4 years old. He's only 21. So you can see he's scared of the play. And so he immediately has a motorcycle, knows a biker, and goes up to Griffith Park in California. I'm sure you've been there, in LA. And they feed the kid. The biker mom say, "We'll take care of little John Anthony, who now runs that company.
Right.
And we'll have you keep making money for a while." A miracle story. Anyhow, starts Paul Mitchell. Now it's 37,000 beauty salons in 103 countries. It's got a 365-year written plan for the company, just killing it, doing such good stuff.
Yeah.
His book is called Success Without Sharing is Failure. He's down in Barbuda. The hurricane wiped it out. He said, somebody's got to do something. I'm somebody. I'm rich. I'll do it. Buys the island, gets a top ichthyologist, fish doctor to bring back the coral, bring back the the fish, the turtles, and 100% employment. And, just that's the coolest stuff. Africa and Mali, the king of Africa, who we're helping him. Anyhow, he's like Shaq, right? When I don't get to look up at a lot of people, but Shaq, I get to look up at. So this guy's that big, lovely, lovely man. Yay. And he said, if JP, John Paul DeJoria, ran for president, he'd win. He said, "What do you need?" He said, "We need water. We got no water in Mali." And he pays never asked for anything, water, and he's got enough water to grow enough crops. They're feeding 5 countries around. One guy decides to do all that.
That's
awesome. Lives in one of his 12 houses in Austin, and he sees this woman who's trying to feed everybody. He said, no, I think I can help you. You still run it, but I'll help you. And anyhow, they feed 40,000 people a night in Austin, because it's, the attraction of Tesla. Everybody thinks they should work there and don't get a job right away, because it takes a while. So he tests all the people, and half of them can get a job, and he gets them to work immediately. And now he's doing a really giant company at 84 years old. And I mean, we're like that. And he's coming here, and he said, "Make sure I get on the best shows." And I said, "Don't worry. I haven't asked. I knew I was coming on your show, because we booked this 3 months ago, or whenever the heck we booked it." Yeah. And JP and I talk a lot. So he'll be on your show.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd absolutely love that. So let's talk about, go ahead.
He's a genius, generous guy. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet him. And I've been a big fan for years. I'd love to have him on the show. So talk about ask for a second. You ask yourself, talk about that for a second. Talk about how important it is to ask yourself the right questions.
So you'd asked another question, a preface to that, and that is, why did we decide to do it? We were asked by an agent who had fired us because we couldn't sell chicken soup. And I'd written a Dare book, and we'd sold a series of 14 and never didn't. But the second one was Dare to Ask, which became Aladdin Factor, which again sold 3.6 or 8 million copies. I don't remember exactly, but a heck of a lot of books.
Right.
And they came back to us at Penguin Random House. Berkeley was the original one. The companies are all merging, as you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow, so that's why it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, but I do. It just each one bought. They're the Pac-Man. They ate each other.
Was this that agent that gave up on you guys when you were getting turned down by 144?
Yeah, but he came back and said, "Look, they'll pay you if you guys will do Aladdin Factor." Well, there's some internal squabbling of what happened. So Crystal and I said, "Look, we're not into squabbling. We'll just do our own book on Ask because we live in the question." Which is what you're talking about, is that, everyone needs to put a question mark in their head, not an exclamation mark. In other words, well, I made my money, so I got an exclamation, I'm done. No, you don't get to be done.
Yeah.
This is a life. If you're an entrepreneur, it's a life sentence. If you're alive, it's a life sentence. If you think you're done and you die and go to the other side, you can watch 2,000 videos on YouTube. All the people get there to the big guy, and it's better music, better sound, better lights, more love, more joy. Oh, yeah. And they all say, I don't want to go back. I said, no, you and I signed, Revelation says in the book of life, you agreed to what you were going to do when you get here to earth. I don't know what you're supposed to do. You don't know what you're supposed to do. Every one of us at depth, if you ask those questions, like I said 101 times, what's your destiny for me? It'll pop out, but you better write it down because it's slippery and wet like a fish. Yeah. So, you just got to write it down and then go for the gusto and it's going to be your right livelihood and everything will get out of your way and you'll pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
500,000,000 books, including me, and I've done it, but I'm going to sell 1 billion.
You will. Yeah, you will. And I can't wait to watch it happen. So talk about how important it is that you ask yourself the right questions.
It's everything. I mean, look, my teacher was Einstein. Einstein was my teacher, Bucky's teacher. And then he said the same thing that Alon's saying, spend more time on the question. If you got to solve a problem, spend 55 minutes, Einstein said, on the question, 5 minutes on the answer. Yeah. 55 minutes on the question, 5 minutes on the answer. And we have that in the book and we outline it because your mind already knows the answer.
You have it. Yeah, you have it. And that's why Einstein was saying, ask, right? And you literally, if you do that, your mind has the answer. It has it. That's what people don't understand. It's there. It's kind of like, and the example I try to use is when you're trying to think of somebody's name and you can't think of it for whatever reason, you're having a mental block, just leave and go drive and think about something else. It'll pop in your mind. Or you'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and sit straight up in bed and go, Johnson was his name, right? Or whatever the name was. Your mind will continue, if you ask it enough, your mind will continue to work and find the answer. It absolutely will.
100% correct. When I used to be with Bucky and we'd be at the Aspen Design Conference together or something, we'd be walking and he'd say, here's the deal, Mark. You can ask yourself, what kind of tree is that? And you may not know now, but somebody will say, that's an aspen tree or a walnut. And I thought, boy, wow, that is wonderful. And he wrote a whole book, which I helped him edit, called Intuition, which is a great book. Mm-hmm. It's his ventilated prose. One of his 15 doctorates at Harvard was the Charles Eliot Norton Professor of Poetry at Harvard, which is just so, cool. Because here's a hard scientist that's writing poetry. And then, Ezra Pound, the top poet of that time. Yeah. I'm amazed that Ezra Pound. Ezra wrote the whole foreword to the book saying this is one of the greatest thinkers of all times.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Look, I'm blessed because I said everyone out there, no matter what your age, has got to have great, inspiring teachers, great, inspiring mentors. Like we got somebody who wanted to do a book with us, and the staff said, "Whoa, that's because to do a fiction or nonfiction book with Mark Victor Hansen Library, we ghostwrite it, we pull it out of you, extraordinary stuff." And I would like to talk to that. It costs $29.9, so it's $30,000, and a biography starts at $200,000 because we got to interview 40 or 50 people that are around you, like John Paul DeGioia. You don't become worth $8.5 billion unless there's a lot of people around you doing a lot of stuff. Yeah. And if it's not a story, now his stories happen to all be positive, but we're doing probably the richest guy in Arizona who's going to go unnamed right now because I can't talk about it, but he's doing a $200 billion project right here in Arizona for Taiwan. Giant, and he's going to stay invisible for a little bit longer. But amazing, he's got people that untick because he can get deals that nobody else gets. Yeah. He didn't want it public because other people would start to go for the deals. Yeah, right? I told a lot of people to do that, so I learned my lesson.
Yeah, I understand. So how important is it that you ask God?
Totally, because God is all. Like my
Yeah.
wife, I start every morning minimum 20 minutes, because sometimes we don't have more than that, but if we got a little freedom, we go to a whole hour where we do the deep breathing, right? And inhale for 8, hold for inhale for 9, hold for 9, exhale for 9, nothing in the air for 9, start again, do it minimum 3 times so you get into elevated state of consciousness. Listen to music like on Newcom, Rescue, and then, or you can go listen, but pick high vibration music. That's the critical thing. Nothing dissonant, right? Like my friend Dr. Steve Halpern says. And then we go into that and we literally ask ourselves questions or tell ourselves what we're going to, accomplish, why we want, how we're going to create massive value for whatever it is that we happen to be doing. Like fixing up our own house or fixing up one of our rentals or whatever it is, or writing a book or solving the problems. Because we got people right now in the government that are doing books with us that are going to solve some problems that most people don't even know exist. And we're doing those books. And then let me do the other side, because somebody else, the government decides that this great medical doctor up in Montana, the top pain doctor, they go after him for using stuff that they told him he could use. And so he comes to me and says, I want to out all of them. I said, not with my company or not. I said, what we'll do is a fiction book. He said, why? I said, when you were in high school, you read The Animal Farm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you remember the main line is all animals are equal.
Yeah.
Some are more than others, which is socialism, right? So he says, what do you tell me? I said, we did it. And the book's in our book. If you go to Mark Victor Hansen library.com, it says Dr. Bison. So we have a bison solving all the problem and all the problems that come at him, but we never name the people so they can't sue him and they can't sue me.
Right. You're protected.
It'll be a great movie down the line, but so we're solving problems, and some of them have to be fictionalized, intentional, and because it's the only way you can pull it off. And I believe, then the other thing you didn't ask is that everyone's got sequels and prequels in them. You got to get the first one out, and then we can get all the rest out.
Yeah. So what's the single most important thing people will learn reading Ask?
How to become what we call a master asker.
Yeah.
And we do that free. We did videos called go ask askthebookclub.com. Well, I hope I'm giving you the right URL. We got so many URLs in my head. Anyhow,
I'm going to have you send me the links and we'll put it in the description for the episode, so people can just click and go.
Because everybody out there deserves to become a master asker.
Yeah.
It is one of the principles that Christ gave us, and before that Moses gave us, before that, and in Solomon. Everybody's done the same principle, but I don't care who you just feed from, whether you're in a Jewish model, a Christian model, a Hindu model, the model all comes back to you've got to master asking to illuminate your life.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And if you look at anybody's life who has succeeded at a very, very high level, and you really, really dig, right? You really get down to the nitty-gritty, what you're going to find is they were willing to ask. They were willing to ask for help. They were willing to ask for advice. They were willing to ask for mentorship. They were willing to ask. You met the love of your life because you were willing to ask, right? You look at your life and look at all the things that you've accomplished. You were willing to ask. Jack Canfield, right? The whole thing, all of it. It literally comes down to the power of questions, and you have to care enough to ask, and you'll get there. You'll absolutely get there. So one of the things that we talk about a lot is leadership. And one of the things that I try to explain to people is when you have a leader who walks into a room and orders people around, I need you to do this, this, and this, and I need it yesterday. And then they turn around and they walk out the door. That person has massive insecurity. Massive. They have massive insecurity versus the person that walks in and says, you know what? We need to do these 3 things. We need to get from here to here. You're on the firing line every day. You're the one that's making this company successful. How do you think we get there from here to here? What do you think is the best way? Great. How can you help us get there? Okay. And if you're a real leader, Mark, you're literally sitting there taking notes while they're talking because you're validating them. You're validating. So one last thing. Do you know who Scott Mann is?
Sure.
Okay. So Scott wrote a book that we had him on our podcast to promote it, called Nobody's Coming to Save You. It's a Green Beret's guide to getting big SHIT done, right? And in his book, he talks about this annual meeting that he was hired by a big company to come to, and all the employees were in the audience. There's over 1,000 of them in the audience, and the CEO gets up and says, "I'm going to introduce our speaker, Scott Mann, in a minute, but I wanted to go through a real quick slide deck and update you on how we're doing as a company." He said, within just a few seconds, everybody was on their phone, including the C-suite executives that were front row center that all worked directly with the CEO. Okay. I believe that if all that CEO had done is to get up and say, "I've got a slide deck here that'll update you on how we're doing as a company. What do you think? You're on the firing line every day. You're our experts. How do you think we did?" Does anybody want to take a guess? Get one person to answer. Right? And you have a conversation with them, you've got them. They're not on their phones. They're rubbernecking trying to figure out who that person is, or they're trying to figure out, how is it that this person's talking to the CEO right now? Okay. They're literally engaged.
Right.
Asking questions engages people.
Right. I love it.
That's it right there. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we wrap up?
I would finish by saying this. You and I, because we're willing to ask, are asking them to 10, 100, or 1,000-fold their expectations.
Yeah.
Because there's more in them. The new version of them is different than yesterday's version. And we've come into a brand new time. I mean, I own a piece of a clothing company that we're making all Let's Make America Great Again hats and shirts and ink pins and everything. It comes out later this week. I'm sorry I don't have it to show you, but it says America's Golden Age, actually. And it is so exciting because this stuff's going crazy. It'll go into Costco and Lids and all and you go, did I ever expect to be in the fashion business? No, but there are 4 of us that own the company, and they came to me. This is the biggest guy that supplies Costco. And I said, we horseback ride together. We've done a lot of adventures together. And I said, yeah, I'm in. I got a little bit of money. I can do this. And I think it's going to work because people need to reinforce that we're in the golden age. And if you're in the golden age and don't know you're in the golden age, like in the 20s, the people that didn't know convergence was happening. Right now, we got convergence happening where they had 3 convergences. They had electricity, they had the automobile, and they had gasoline, all suddenly hit at 1906. Right now, we got 7 convergences hitting, everything from AI and AGI to robotics, to robotic taxis, to CRISPR, I name all of them. But the point I'm making is we are in the most ecstatically exciting time. And if you aren't tuned in by wearing a hat that reminds you, or having a gold pen or a key link that reminds you that you're in the golden age, and you're here to be a participant. This time it is not, well, I'm retired, I'm 70. Bull, get your ass out of retirement. I hope that's not fast to say, but we need you, and we need everyone to come back and decide to help everybody else.
We need people that have lived a full life to get back in the saddle more than we ever have needed them. Okay. Amen. And ultimately, we need the people that are younger that need to learn from them, to be willing to ask them what they know, be willing to ask them what they've learned, be willing to learn from the mistakes that they've made and gain that wisdom.
Bingo.
It's absolutely imperative, especially right now. So I cannot thank you enough, Mark Victor Hansen, for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm trying not to get emotional, but I cannot thank you enough.
Well, me too.
This has been amazing. I've loved every second of it.
Me too.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.